Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with Not too many announcements today. The water restrictions have been lowered to stage 2. We couldn't wait. My apologies. That's okay. That's a steam group. Council member Smith did a fine job for us. We'll get you next time.
If you'll give me one more chance.
Okay. I think the ordinance reads 3 strikes.
Okay, thank you.
We've been able to lower to stage 2, water restrictions. That's good. That's in keeping with the water company. And that's right here. And there's still no burn ban. That's about all I have announcements wise. Do we have anybody signed up? All right. Thank you so much. Let's Red Alert. Floor is yours.
I found that Mark and can you put those up there?
Morning.
I called.
Don't start.
I signed up to, because we had pictures up here of the streetscape,
Okay.
and I'm talking about our streetscape plan. It started in 2004 when we started the Visionary Preservation Program, and this is the streetscape is one of the projects that passed with the Visionary Preservation Program for Blanco. It was a Texas Historic Commission program, and the Nice Friendly Skies is one of the programs. 4-way stop signs, entry signs that we're trying to get up. So there's so many in it if you aren't familiar with it. But streetscape has been going on. The city gave us a resolution in October of 2009 to form the committee to come up with a master plan for the historic district and the streetscape plan. And so we have been working on it since then. We have an architect, we have a surveyor, and we have phase 1 done, which is from Trace Limited. It's done to the side, the other side of the city hall, but we're going to the Town Creek on the Pond Street side. The next phase will be 3rd Street going to 281, and then we start soon. Here we are here. These are Suzanne Pemberton is our architect. She owns or is owner of Main Street Architects in San Antonio. And so these are the drawings, the schematic drawings for the square. This is the main thing going on right now, the 4-way stop sign, because we've had problems with the corners being torn up without a plan, and it has hurt the drainage. So TxDOT, we're working with TxDOT. There's Old 300 where we start coming down this way, going to the Town Creek. There's a larger plan where on the other side it's the post office. We're really happy with this. The second phase is 3rd Street to 281. 4th phase will be 4th Street, going past Herb's Pet Shop. 4th phase will be 281, which I hope by then it's Main Street again. But I just want to share this with you tonight because last time Keith made a comment, I've never gotten to see a picture of these, and he's not here to get to see the pictures. But these, we'll have them on in the paper soon.
We can put those on the city website.
I'll send all count.
Yeah. Can you see them? Okay. That's my everybody comment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
We meet once a month.
all right. That's all that was signed up to speak. Staff presentations, Mr. Espy.
Okay. Next slide. So, the offices will be closed next Monday for Martin Luther King Jr. We're all going to enjoy our time and think about that day. Just to give you a reminder, City Council candidate window opened on January 17th and it closes on February 16th. All people that are interested in serving the city should apply. We talked about before, the meter audit was completed. We're now starting to work with performance and the financials. We get the meter started and you'll start seeing meters hopefully this spring. So I think I sent this to you, council, maybe yesterday. We earned interest for 2023 of $142,238. And that seems like a lot, and it is. A lot of us negotiate 3.5% to 5% based on different things, but it's also not just the general fund and not just the enterprise fund. It includes the money that we have in accounts that pay for the lift station and the treatment plant and all those different things. So it also is our construction money. So it really is, really using taxpayer money to try to get more interest to fund the things that we need.
One item question on one item. Was that included in our current budget? Was there a projection for the interest income?
Yeah, I think, yes, I think that we're a little higher than we thought. So we'll make an accounting of that next month when Sasha comes here and does a full report for you. I still owe you a budget of actual for the month and for the quarter. We'll provide that analysis as well. So we did have it, but it's probably a little higher than we thought. But they are going back down, so we'll go back down. I never like to tell you exactly when I think something's going to happen, but I think fairly certain that the new lift station that is near 4th Street, near the river, the new lift station completion will be in February. So very excited about that. I've been told February 2nd, but let's just say sometime in the month of February that should be operation. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Chief Rubin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So you have the monthly report in front of you, and you'll probably notice that there's still a gap for October and November. And so when the computer system was compromised, not on our end, that data is being entered, but we're finding now that some of the reports are showing up on the day the data was entered and not the day that it occurred. So we're trying to get that straight so we can differentiate between October and November. But the December dates are in there, and so if you go to the far right, the highlighted column is year-to-date for 2023, and year-to-date 2022 is going to be the far right column. And if you notice on all the activity there, those numbers are pretty much all higher, and that's without October and November numbers. So I know traffic is always a big topic, so if we just go down to the traffic numbers, year-to-date 2022 was 581. Year-to-date 2023 is 1,078, and that's missing 2 months of data. So arrest data, calls for service data, all those numbers are up, and officers are being productive. Any questions?
Yeah, one question.
Yes, sir.
On the arrests, do you guys keep track of whether or not they're locals or out of city people who are being arrested?
We keep that data on site. I believe we do. So if we could get that data on the rest, I think we normally include that in the annual report, which should be coming out in the next. By law, we have to do it for March, so we normally do that in February. So if it's not in there, we'll try to get that number, that data in there. It's significantly non-residents. The number is very high on the non-resident side of arrests.
Thank you, sir.
Chief, do you think the increase in citations is due to increased traffic or increased staffing?
It's hard to say because the increased staffing, we're very appreciative of that, but as y'all know, that's like a long time process. So even with those new bodies right now, we're only running one shift, which shift. The other shifts, the other people are still in training, so it's a two-man car. Now I think like when school's out, like one of the SROs comes back to patrol, so that's an additional body and he pretty much focuses on traffic. So that does increase that. But it kind of looks at, so that's overall numbers for the year, if you look, and so it kind of flows with, like in December, the traffic numbers were down, but the arrest numbers were high, which correlates to the hours out of the city was high. So because when we make an arrest, like you mentioned on your street, that, so that a traffic stop took hours because it turned into a stolen vehicle and narcotics and 2 people in a vehicle and having, and so all attention is on that and nobody's working traffic ordinance, which came out of the traffic stop. So it's like we talked about this kind of that double-edged here.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. All right, we're going to the consent agenda, by request of Mayor Pro Tem, and with my agreement, I'm going to move items 2 and 3 to new business. Just so we can discuss them a little bit. And nothing controversial, but I anticipate we'll have to discuss that. So we're just right now on the consent agenda looking at item 1, the minutes from December 12th. I didn't see anybody.
I've got one comment, and it's not an error that needs to be corrected, it's an error that I made for our meeting. It quoted, Councilman Rokill, but I had stated that we had approved a relief route, having a relief route, and we had not. The city requested a relief route study. Correct. And that's where we are at this time with the state, and I wanted to clarify that I was incorrect. If somebody goes back and listens to the minutes, I'll call.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody else? I'll entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we have the consent agenda excluding items
2 and 3.
2 and 3.
I second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you very much. So let's pick up item 2 and 3. Chase. Yes, sir. What jumped out at a couple of us was the 25% match. You've already explained it.
Yeah, so, see in front of you, it's 2 resolutions to approve us requesting some grants. And so the grant cycle is a very short period. Grants get announced and then there's a closing date. The closing date for these grants is in February and they require council resolution. So the rifle resistant armor grants is pretty cut forward. We received that grant last year. There's no city match. And I think we got about $18,000 worth of rifle resistance body armor for that. The body cameras, as you see in our budget, we pay, I think, $5,000-$6,000 a year for the lease of the body cameras that we have now. So just it's the backstory why we need this. So SB3, which is the bill that was passed last year, required every school to have armed security or a police officer on that campus. We're in our 5th year of a contract with Quantico ISD to provide 1 SRO. And we do that as a cost sharing measure. The city pays a portion and the ISD pays a portion. When school's in session, he works for the school. When school's not in session, he works for us. And that's how we plus up sometimes on traffic and things like that. So with that new bill, we met and agreed that armed or uniformed officers was the best, that was the preferred way to go. So the school was able to fund 2 officers. And so some of the equipment the city had, we had enough weapons for everybody, so there's no cost. The MOU that we currently have is on its last year. So we were looking at revision of that MOU, where the school district would be responsible for more of the equipment, even for that 1 officer, than they have in the past. Come along the other 2 officers, and so we don't have enough body cameras for those officers. They're using body cameras right now because we're still short that one officer. And so we're accommodating that. We know that's going to end. So I've been working with the school on updating the MOU to have more of a cost share on that equipment. This grant came out and I was like, well, if we can help the school district save some money to buy the body cameras, because the way the MOU is that although the district funds it, it belongs to the city, it belongs to the SRO program. So we're getting the school to pay for some of this, but it would be the city's property. And so I thought if we get a grant to help with some of the cost on the campus. So if that cost sharing doesn't work with the school, then we don't have to accept the grants, that 25%. The 25% match we should get from the school. If that, that I'll come to you with that MOU to work all that out. But this is the last time the council meets before the grants are due. And that's why we're requesting the resolution now. So that's probably a lot more information than we hoped for.
I think my only question, because I saw that we had already previously received a grant. You're explaining that now we have more need. So that's.
Yeah, so we applied for the same grant. So last year we got a grant for the ballistic shields as well as for the rifle resistant armor. So we have, the way we deploy the shields, we have enough shields. Body armor needs to be fit for each individual. So that's why we're seeking some more grant for that.
And just to satisfy my own curiosity, I was curious what the lifespan on this equipment is, both the shields and the.
So the way we do the cameras, and that's why we pay that portion every year. So what we do is it's kind of a lease purchase deal through Axon. So our body cameras, our vehicle cameras, our tasers are all based on a 5-year contract. And so we pay them instead of, we just didn't have the money to go out and buy all the stuff. So we did it through Axon. It's a 5-year program that they have. Most cities are utilizing. At the end of the 5 years, they replace it because the technology wears out. And so at the end of the 5 years, it's kind of a continuation thing. So it's one of those kind of never goes away expenses, but by leasing it, it includes like our training cartridges. If we deploy cartridges, they send us new ones. So it's basically, we'll have those for 5 years and then we'll recycle that. Body armor is usually manufactured as a 5-year.
Okay.
And the shields are longer, they're more indefinite.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any questions, conversations? Can we do these all in one resolution or one motion? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion that we approve part of consent items 2 and 3 that are now new business items.
Gotcha. Any second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now to what's new business item number 1. Regarding a possible recommendation to TxDOT regarding 21 relief route. This was requested by Councilmember Swenson.
I think we should talk about whether or not we can take a stance on where the relief route should go, and if we want to give any sort of recommendation to TxDOT. So same proposal, and I'll give my reasoning behind it. My proposal is that there's no relief route. The relief route goes outside the city limits and outside the ETJ. There's no exits except where it connects to the existing 281 north and south of town. It has no frontage roads, and at a minimum, we send this recommendation to TxDOT and to all our state representatives. So I talked to Joe Muck from TxDOT about the design of the road, and it's going to be a freeway. So on ramps, off ramps, no local streets connecting onto it, no driveways, possibly frontage roads or access roads parallel to the street. So my point number 1 is, because the relief route is a freeway, I don't believe it should be in our city limits. The freeway does not have a small town feel. People use our character and charm if the freeway is inside our city limits. Number 2, I'm worried about fragmentation of Blanco. So if we have part of town here, relief route freeway, part of town over here, how are we going to get access to the other side? How will we get streets across? How will we get utility lines across? It'll be a big expense. And number three, the city limits is our jurisdiction, and we have a responsibility to protect our land and our citizens.
She made it.
Number four, we should have full control over all the streets in our town. If the relief route is in town, we get another text dot road, and we won't have a say on the speed or.
Like to recognize attendance of Councilmember McClellan. Welcome. Good to see you. Yeah,
That's my ideas. I would love to have a discussion about if we should. do
You know,
it.
I appreciate you bringing this to us, and looking at your, request that you filed with the city to have this on the agenda. You're stating TxDOT is building a relief route, and I don't know that they have made that final decision. I mean, I'm hopeful they do, because I think it's in the best interest of our town. I think without it, Blanco can never recover. That's my opinion.
Thank you. I made a mistake on that. They haven't.
That's okay. I mean, I'm just clarifying where things are. Same thing as, I thought we'd approved having a relief route and go back. We had not. So, you know, that happens. Because of my memory or whatever. You know, I guess your proposal, what you're addressing, includes, I guess, access to the route from the city. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and you are requesting that it does not have any on or off ramp within the city limits? Well, we're not in the city limits.
I think it should only connect at the, where it would connect to 281 as it exists. I don't believe there should be an exit at 165.
Well, if it's outside our city limits, I don't see where we get to have a lot of say in it. I mean, my opinion is, I am supportive of having a resolution. I mean, I can draft it in wording, but I don't know that we would have any credibility asking to control something outside our ETJ.
Well, I think TxDOT might not take it into account, but I do think it affects Blanco because anytime you have an exit or a frontage road, I think it will attract kind of the non-local businesses, kind of the chain stores and just any development. And so I think if there were exits and frontage roads, then that could take business away from Blanco. So I do think it affects our town.
When I heard your presentation, I see it as two separate. You asked up front, should we take a stand as a city? And then you stated your opinion on what that stand should be. So separating those, I agree. I think it might be a good idea at the right time for us to take a stand, but I think that it's vital that stand be something that is pretty much consensus across the board in town. We have a committee that has been starting to look into this, and I don't know that we've had enough public engagement to be able to definitively say what people want. There's big issues about this stuff. I mean, the economic impact. If it's pushed out where it says Blanco 3 miles this way, we stand a chance of being the next Vanderpool. I mean, there's a lot of issues, and that's why the community needs to come together to have this conversation. And if we all agree, then we can have some sway with it. But if it's shooting from the hip, I don't think it's going to help us. I think it'll kind of diminish our chance of getting good concessions out of them. That's my opinion. And so, yes, I'm in favor. If there's a consensus in the committee to take a stand, absolutely. The work hasn't been done to gain that consensus yet.
So from my point of view, what you described is exactly what I've always envisioned as a citizen before I ever came on council. And that was, you know, if we have to have a highway through the Texas Hill Country, and I wish we didn't, it would be a scenic route from point A to point B and not be an invitation for any commercial corridor. I also think that if we're going to embark on this exercise at all of contemplating a route, and I think anybody that has contemplated the benefits of a potential route are trying to move traffic outside of the city. And so it's antithetical to me that we would contemplate a route to just move traffic to a different part of the city. Save one area of town, destroy another area of town. I spent the last day and a half calling and reaching out to people, and I spoke to about a dozen people, and I tried to grab people from different, just a diverse group of people from town that I know have had different opinions on other items. I spoke to some of our planning and zoning commissioners. I spoke to all three of the candidates for mayor and council that ran this last election. Those of us up here aside. Other than two individuals whose responses were more nuanced about this recommendation, everybody else I spoke to was very enthusiastically supportive of this measure. It is my feeling that this is what people that are residents of Michael want. So,
I appreciate you making calls in 2 days. I've been digging in this. I remember grabbing possible routes with Mayor Hurd several years ago. I've been looking at this for a very long time, and I can tell you that that consensus isn't there. We haven't had that dialogue. A lot of people have different opinions that deserve to be heard. I have ideas. I don't have a strong opinion. I don't have one that this is what it's got to be, but a lot of people have a lot of, for example, if you look at the routes that have been proposed, if we adopt this, which means that Robert Seymour's house is going to be bulldozed. Been in the family for a long time. He's a job creator here. He changes a lot of our oil. His house will be flattened if this is adopted.
Mr. Mayor, sorry to interrupt, I just like to iterate my point, which is not to take this particular route, but just say not in the city limits. So right now, TxDOT has two routes that are not.
Correct. Exactly. And the way the land lays out and everything, it looks like to be the one that's better than even odds. So yeah, it's a good chance that you're asking for Robert to sacrifice the house. Does our council have any?
I don't really have much to offer. I would, however, like to discuss this with you all in executive session. There's some significant legal issues associated with any stand you may take or not that I think ought to be considered. And I'd like to have an opportunity to do that. This evening, these folks have less.
and I mentioned one more, so a lot of us got a form emailed from TxDOT recently, just kind of stating where we are in the process. And I thought it was interesting, I think I'm misquoting them, that basically they suggested that although they presented us with 6 routes, based on feedback, once they narrow it down, the new routes might not be any of the routes we've seen previously. They may adjust them based on feedback they've got so far. So, we might not have seen the routes that are going to be presented to us yet.
And I think with that being said, I think the timing of this may be appropriate before they, if it's something we decide to do, I think to be timely with it and get that information to them, get it to the state, TxDOT, get it to our representatives, and let them know there is a consensus, or if there's not a consensus, there's not a tell. So,
And one more thing, a lot of the folks I talked to the last day and a half, they wish there wasn't going to be a highway at all. And now that they know that there likely will be one, they wish it would be as far away as possible. Well, we can only talk about what's in our city limits, and to a lesser extent, it's in our ETJ. So I do think it's important we address it.
well, I think I'd like to make a motion at this time.
I'm going to take it to executive
Well, that's
session.
what I'm going to ask you to take this and take it to executive.
Yeah, I'm going to take it up in executive session. Yeah, there's a motion. Thank you. Okay, number 2, this is Warren and the asphalt zipper.
So when you look at street program, mayor, council, residents of Blanco, first of all, I kind of want to explain, can you change that up a little bit? if you can. So one of the things we want to talk about real quick is the program that we have right now in filling potholes and basically doing street repair. And what we've been doing, if you've noticed, we've tried different products, one being a kind of a rock asphalt, another one being just regular cold mix. And as you've seen, and I'll give a couple examples, right here on 3rd Street, right before 281, I think Mark filled that in July, and it's starting to deteriorate now. So that one was about 6 months. And we did some work over on 10th Street, maybe about two and a half months ago, and that's starting to deteriorate. So the normal pothole program that we've been doing, not only higher height milling, but when we've done it, and the guy who's done a good job, they've been working hard, but depending on the hole, depending on the base material below it and all those different things, you're looking at a pothole fix and anywhere between 2 to 6 or 7 months. So that is what the reality is. And some people will anecdotally say, well, it can last longer or not last longer, but essentially that's kind of what we're seeing is anywhere from 2 to 6 or 7 months on pothole repair. So last month, we were talking about street repair and infrastructure. And I want to really talk about 3 specific things. And those 3 things is, number 1 would be basically funding an employee. So there's the funding, there's needing an employee, and then there would also be the other component we're going to talk about is the actual process and the equipment that we need. So what we're envisioning now, what we're looking at doing is having a program that would have adding 1 employee to Infomart. We'll talk about the funding here in a minute. Use something that we're going to call, it's basically called an asphalt zipper, which I'll show you a picture of what it is. I've sent it to you. Hopefully you've watched the videos and you've seen kind of what it does. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll also talk about funding. So let's jump into the funding and explain. So this would be when we talk at FY25, we're talking about the year that starts on go back. I can't talk about that now in the end. We talk about October 1st, 2024 to September 30th, 2025. So the employee with benefits is about $75,000. The materials would be up 50, a little bit less with this asphalt zipper. And then the asphalt zipper, which is it's a machine that basically, in a sense, it mills the product, and then you have material, and then it compacts it, and we'll I'm gonna show, yeah, go ahead and show a picture now. That small asphalt zipper, which I think is a 4 foot, it's $216,000. But with the financing that we could get, which would be 5 installments after the first year, and then 5 installments at 5%, which is about $58,000 a year. So that would be, so let's go back to that. So, and again, right now, the reason why I'm just talking to you about concept is what I'm hoping to hear from council is what concept you like, and then we'll go back next month and give you exact numbers and exact how we work on this. Asphalt zipper, while expensive, will allow the city to provide better, more sustainable repair to simple pothole filling. When we talk to CMAQ, they look at this as a 5 to 7 year fix instead of a 1 year repair, or in this case, 6 months. Assuming Infomart will look at a $20,000 yearly kick-in, we're looking at an overall cost for the city of $163,000. For this year, this prorated year, what we could do is we could, if you look at those numbers, we could look at not having an employee this year, seeing how it works, and then basically, essentially, just paying for the materials, which I think at a prorated is $30,000. So If we split that, then it would be about $15,000 to $20,000 for the city this year, which is right now not budgeted. So, let's go down a little bit. Let me see. So how do we fund this? How, and then we're gonna go backwards, and after we talk about how we're gonna fund this, and we'll take a look at so I'll get closer. How would we fund this? There'd be two ways we would fund this. Number one, the actual asphalt zipper, which is equipment, you can actually fund through what we call a COO, which is a certificate of obligation. That certificate of obligation could be paid out full, so the $216,000 we could stick it on a CO, and that could be paid through our interest and sinking fund. So that would not be a yearly occurrence. Or you could pay it annually through our CO. There's a couple ways of doing that. The other way to pay the actual employee, to pay the materials, you could not do on CO. We do not do a certificate of obligation. It's not an actual product. It's an actual person that's actually working on that. So the other, again, the reason why I'm explaining this now instead of having this all buttoned up for you is if I'm going down the wrong rabbit hole, I'm not counting. We probably would need about $100,000. So you have, again, you have $58,000 from the product, from the zipper, but then you'd have $100,000 that would be needed, about 110 actually, that would be needed from both the employee and then the material. So that would come into creation of a street maintenance fee. So I think I sent you how the city of Taylor, how the city of Hutto, there's several other cities that put together a street fee, street maintenance fee. It would be whatever the council wants it to be. What you're looking at is you're looking at the residents picking up about half of that $110,000, and then the commercial entities picking up about 50%. So you would have a street maintenance fee that would yearly get about $100,000 to $110,000. There's 950 residential and 150 commercial. With read through how some other cities have done it. Obviously, the use and who uses the actual roads is more slanted on the specifics of the businesses. So it's based on square footage. So if you have 30,000 square feet, it's 5,000. There's a fee associated with that. The reason why we're not going to go specifically into that is because what I need to hear from the council tonight is what they think about the concept and not necessarily poking holes in all the issues we have. If we can go back now that we talked about the concept of the funding and the concept of the employee, which would work for Infomark, even though it would be employed by us. Can we take a look at the zipper and kind of explain a little bit about what that does? Next month we'll have a lot more detail because we plan to go to Seguin and take a look at this. They've used it in Seguin, they've used it a couple of other places. So this is where I'm going to talk to you a little bit, explain a little bit about what the zipper does from your knowledge.
There's a question, Warren, as far as the budget, I was purchased, I'm sure there's repairs and maintenance. Was that included in the annual amount?
We haven't buttoned that up yet. So there's, I'm guessing the first couple of years, you're probably not going to do a lot of maintenance, but there will be as time goes on. So we haven't got that.
It does come with a 2-year warranty. That's what they told us, but as far as service, maintenance, things like that, we don't know the expense.
Which would be a great question to ask the folks in Seguin, yes, what their maintenance averages have been.
I was checking, you can lease a machine for about $63,000 a year. I would assume the provider, I don't know this, I would assume the provider would provide the maintenance and replace the blades or the grinders or whatever that we're in. I don't know.
Of course, the maintenance is going to depend on how much you use it.
Right, yeah.
I mean, and we're gonna use it every day.
Well, so it may have been, instead of 4 foot, it may have been 38.
So David,
Councilman Moses?
you haven't had a chance to research this machine very much?
Not very much. I've talked to City of Brady a little bit. They have one too. We are looking at possibly doing a demonstration here. They're willing to come out. We're looking at going to see Seguin's. So basically
We're
what,
gonna do a demonstration down Mesquite Street.
that's my plan.
So there's all give demonstrations too.
Not so cold, but I went online and looked at the manufacturer, looked at the recommendation. They also recommended some compaction equipment to come in behind it, and we don't have that.
That's, we're looking into that also.
But that's another cost. So I think, Warren, our first step would be to decide if we want to do some form of assessment on our citizens and businesses, and if we're not willing to do that, then we don't have to have any discussions about how we're gonna get this thing working.
So Councilman, I totally agree with you. That's why I wanted to at least get this in front of you, because if the idea is we did not want to do an assessment on the citizens, and I'm not saying that's should or shouldn't do that, but if you're saying that you don't want to do that, then I don't know why we should spend another 15, 20 hours looking at this.
Right.
That's a
Well, and I might be getting too far in the weeds already because I based this on the numbers we were just given and that's fluid, but if we're talking about 50,000 divided amongst 950 residential users divided by 12, I think that comes out to $4.38 a month. Is that ballpark what we're talking about as far as an assessment on the utility bills of residents?
Yeah, I think what you're looking at is, I think you're looking at about probably $6. When I was doing some back of napkin math, it's probably about $6 per month for residential. And then the commercials probably about double that. Because like Councilor Smith was talking about, there's a big compaction machine and some other things. And yes, you're correct.
And one of the things I know that we've discussed in the past, the school district runs fleets of buses up and down city streets every morning, every evening, so all the houses rumble. How much would that assessment impact then?
So if you look at what some of the other towns did, and this is, we're gonna have our engineer here next month to kind of explain this and other issues. We're gonna probably more centered on public works projects next month. But it's gonna be based on square footage. So I'm not gonna talk about legal, but as far as what most cities have done, they haven't actually looked at the size of the vehicles, those sort of things, because the other issue is, while school district, while some of our bigger users are heavier machines, they'll also claim that they're using 281, they're using 1623, that they're not using city roads. So to kind of get away from that argument, we look at square footage and not actual. If that was the case, then the guy that has the big trucks in town, I'm not gonna mention that business, sure, you can give them the biggest bill, but that's not how we're supposed to look at it. We look at purely at square, now, based on square footage, then yeah, the school district's gonna see a pretty big chunk because they have a big facility.
Would it be possible to find a paving company that uses the same thing and just hire them?
So, to answer your question, to answer Councilman Smith's question, I think you as a council need to look at whether you want to purchase equipment and purchase the capability, or whether you want to rent or find someone else to do it for you. So I think that is what administration's asking. If you're asking that same question, and if you want me to do a cost analysis on renting or having someone else do it versus having us have the capability. Now, there's a lot of upfront costs, but the equipment costs can be offset through a certificate of obligation and actually putting that on our interest and sinking rather than on our enterprise or our general fund. So you want me to do a financial analysis, or do you do the next one?
Well, effectively, we'd be having that company do it. Whoever you get from. Buy equipment.
Well, yeah, well, yes, we are, but we're not, let me say this again. Infomark, I basically consider in-house. I think that they're not, but they're basically in-house. If you're talking about how someone else, for example, like we had Hyde Millen do a job, that's different.
Sure.
Upfront cost to do something in-house is very expensive, so you're probably talking, like I said, with financing, what is that, 300, I think it was, it ended up being 258 or 260 with financing. You're probably talking about another $50,000 or $60,000 in materials and maybe another $50,000 for a roller. I mean, you're talking about some different upfront costs to begin with, but then it gets less expensive.
Well, and I guess if we do decide we want to do an assessment, then we do decide we want to go into this, I'd probably be more supportive of leasing for the first year to see if it worked. Before I had a piece of equipment that you know, with the depreciation and everything, we could come out of it.
So it sounds like what council's asking for is looking at a 1 year cost differential on lease program equipment before you buy into expensive machinery and putting together a program.
Can I finish where I was going with this earlier? Okay. So, I used to work road construction. I know a lot of stuff about these machines, and I'd like to make sure I put my info in on this so everybody understands what we're looking at. Something like this compared to pothole filling. Pothole filling is a very temporary deal, 2 to 6 months. Consistently throw money at it forever. You're never going to fix a problem. That's a milling machine. That's a real deal milling machine. Most of these machines you can purchase, and they can mix bonding agents in with it while it's milling, and you're no longer losing your material. You're milling up the road and the base is underneath it. A lot of these checking how deep it's capable of going. Gotcha. Okay. That's the number one thing. When you come through with a unit like this, with 42-inch swath, you can come through and not just replace potholes. You could come through and do about 3 or 4 cuts and then replace the entire mesquite stream, and it will relay down most of those units and most of your base and your road material that's existing there, and create a new base, mix bonding agents with it, you roll it in, and you can have either chip seal or new pavement put over the top of it. You generally have a new road surface with higher density grading than you ever had before, because of the bonding agents that mixed in with your original road. You don't have to purchase a whole lot of material and bring it in. Material it's there. This is something that if you buy this, we're not just looking at patching and fixing a few potholes. We're looking at possibly redoing the road structure of our entire city and creating something long lasting and truly protecting our investment. Now, how to fund buying one of these monsters, I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Since you've got some numbers, if we go out there and we decide we've got a continuous problem and the asphalt's deteriorating, in terms of there's really no base on it. Okay, then at that point in time, is this machine gonna be able to fix it?
Yes, generally with the bonding agents that can be mixed in with it, you can stabilize mud.
Okay,
Yes,
like a soil cement or something like that.
correct, sir. Even direct concrete. You can have concrete stabilizer right with that. They use, this is used a lot also, believe it or not, over in like Louisiana and stuff. Have a lot of sandy soil. They'll go in and directly bond concrete. Most of the time, if they want to make a road, they have to come somewhere like here and ship roadways all the way there so they can build that.
And then you bring up a good point that we've got to figure out also is the bonding agents, the sealing, chip seal, whatever. That's additional costs we're not even considering in this that we've still got to figure out.
Correct.
You know, this just creates, like you said, a good sub base. but you still gotta put something on top of the road once you use this.
But it does give us an in-house option of a possible permanent fix to all of our.
Grading the subbase is your most expensive part of the road repair.
Absolutely, most important part.
Yes, and most important, absolutely.
Thank you for your time.
Martin, so, if in the situation you laid out, scenario you laid out, possibly issue a certificate of obligation to pay for the equipment. If we are gonna look at a lease option, as Councilmember Smith suggested, how does that change the funding? If you can speak to that.
Yeah, so basically that's going to delay the funding on a certificate of obligation by a year. Because what you look at them doing is just renting it. And if you rent a piece of equipment, you can't do a certificate of obligation. So in that case, then we'll have to look at including that in the initial startup cost rather than as a CO for the interest of so they come from a different pot of money.
But the assessment of our citizens, it's fine. Is that correct?
We might have to add just a teeny bit more. If you're talking about, because we're not be using CO, we'll probably have an additional $50,000 of costs that first year if you're renting. If you're renting it and you're saying $50,000 to rent it.
I think you could make one that's-
Okay,
So you were at $58,000 in payments.
correct. But you can actually a certificate of obligation with a product, with a purchase. You cannot do CO with rent.
Right, I understand.
So we would have to change, we would actually have to find more money from the budget to do that. I can do that, it's just that comes from a different pot of money. For this year.
One more point, Martin, and I know you don't want to get in the weeds on the numbers, but I do think it's important for the public. I think when people see an employee I'm sure it's a very difficult and technical job, or maybe you can speak to that, but I think they see 75,000 and I think, whoa. So what ballpark or salary are we talking about? I know this includes benefits, so just so the public has a better idea of how much we're looking at paying an individual to do this.
I'm gonna make a very general statement about what salaries are versus benefits for citizens, okay? Generally, what you're looking at is about $24 an hour, about $50,000 a year.
Okay.
You're looking at benefits being about half of what someone's salary is.
Okay.
It's about what most of the city.
So thank you.
Anything more?
And I'm still scheduled to have a demo with them.
We haven't got there yet. We're working on it.
Okay, because I think making sure, I heard a concern that maybe our water lines were too shallow.
Yeah, and that's why I chose Mesquite, because they are deeper over there.
And kind of to piggyback on the leasing option, I mean, do you think the people in Seguin or Brady would just hire them? Like they would
Wouldn't,
do that?
I doubt they have the staff, but you know, we're like, maybe we can talk to them about renting it when we go talk to them. I mean, there's options. We'll just have to figure it
I
out.
think it's more likely that we could rent the equipment from Seguin's probably closer to Brady, right?
Let's say,
Really?
Brady's what, an hour?
It's forever away.
Seguin's
The center of Texas.
It's 30 minutes past regular service, so. Hour and a half.
Seguin.
No, Brady.
But anyway, I digress.
We should look at lease options as we talk about future.
But I guess at this point, we go back to school.
1 hour, 28 minutes.
It seems like forever. I did it
Yeah,
that long ago.
West Texas.
And then we compare the cost.
We can do that after we decide how we're gonna, if we're gonna.
Yes, sir.
I'm so appreciative of staff coming up with some options for us. We do want to tackle this.
Yeah.
And sooner the better.
Happy to do it. We'll come back to you next month.
Thank you very much. Stay up there because you're up next with item number 3. Update the city's grants affecting 2023 year.
Actually, Zachary, this one was turn off.
I don't think any of them.
Well, talk about it. Okay, too much. Okay, so I'd like to thank everybody for kind of following me on this. Basically, we visit item number 3, number 5, and number 6 are all kind of related. And what we want to talk about is the grants versus what grants are going to do. So what I hear from citizens, and what I've really heard from council a little bit less, but is what kind of grants do we have? And are we actually asking for enough money? Are we, what are we actually doing? And so after I present this to you tonight, I'd like your permission to put this on the website and make sure that we provide more information. But I want to be really transparent and talk about what we have. So I've always just found that if you just tell folks what you've done, I'm hoping people understand that we're working hard on grants, but I also want some constructive, something from both council, from the citizens saying, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that, or maybe we want to help, because I think council also talked about having a grant committee putting that together. So this kind of all ties in together. So I'm going to just go through the grants that we're working on and ones that affected us in 2023. So we had a certified local government grant, which is historic, which Red has been working on, and that was $41,500 with a 50% city match. Submitted November 23rd and awarded on January 24th. We had a coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery program, that's the SLRF, and you got that from last year and from this year. 21 and the 22 were $256,000 in 21 that you used most of, and then the one that's from this year, which is $257,000, which will be the rest of this year. FEMA TDEM DR 4705, which is my storm Mara, that was $7,691 that we spent to fix things around town. That also included when we had garbage pickup, that additional pickup to try to get things cleaned up. We spent $7,691. The reimbursement on that from TDEM was $5,768. There are, we'll get to this, but the PD does different types of grants. There's one that they received for department bullet resistant shields at $15,000, $449. We just received, as you know, at the station project, there's $300,000 awarded and a $30,000 match. That's what started the project in 2020, but it's still being felt today, which is why it's listed. And then we also have the generator, which is also the generator grant, which is $174,682 with a $17,718 match. We did submit for a tech stock department, tech stock 2023 TA call for alternative transportation plan for the bicycle pedestrian walkability. We did not receive that grant, but keep working on it. We did not talk about the positives and negatives of things that we haven't got as well. Texas Water Development Board Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. We did receive the funding request. That's the PIF for the water board, $3,558,000 and $739, which has been now increased to $3.9 million, which $600,000 of that will not pay as new funding. We did submit also for the wastewater, which was not approved last year. We submit in February. That total funding request is $21,654,291.60. We'll be resubmitting that. It's like that. And then there's a United States USDA, we did a rural services reconnect program for broadband funding. Remember, I spent $100,000 on that. Did not receive that So, wanted to mention to you these things. I will email this to you and put this on our website, but I want to start showing the citizens what we apply for and if they will help us, because we the staff want to just be totally transparent of what we've done, what we have. Questions, etc.
Thank you for putting this together.
So the next couple of weeks, we'll put this on the website for people to review and look at, but I just wanted to double check and make sure put all the correct information on it. I'd like to start posting on our website.
Anybody else? Any questions?
Are we gonna look at the grant opportunities as well?
Yes, we're gonna start looking at grant opportunities, and we have one tonight we're gonna talk about. But that's why I wanted to list it, because if there's grant opportunities that we haven't caught, or that people think that we should be applying for and want to help us, and I want to also invite the public to look at different things, and we post what we're looking at doing, as well as what we've done, then they'll know what we haven't, because it's not a mystery. So, okay, so we didn't submit this, or we didn't request this, why? We did because we didn't have time, or we didn't because we didn't think it chance, whatever the reason is. This is just to provide more data to the public to review.
So in the insert in our packets here, the 2024 grant opportunities. there's 5 listed.
Yes, sir.
I was curious about the Texas Water Development Board, the second to the last one.
This with funding?
Yeah.
Talk about the wastewater, flood mitigation.
Flood mitigation, assistant grants, water utilities, technical assistance programs. I'm just curious if what that would help us with if we knew.
Yeah, we're still looking, are you talking the SWIFT funding cycle? Is that which one we're talking about?
Under TWDB.
Second from bottom, under the 2024 grant.
I can email you what happened.
Okay, I was just curious. It says flood mitigation, and I didn't know
So we get,
that wouldn't pertain to our falling wall, would it, on this?
no, it would not, but
Okay.
we actually have met with, the Army Corps of Engineers. and
Right.
we've
Okay.
done that.
Okay, that was all. I was just curious.
I probably need to add the Corps of Engineers to they're gonna receive a grant, but put it in there somewhere. I guess. And the very first one is the very first one, the 24, the one for the public safety office is the one we're working on for PD. Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Moving on. Thank you, Warren.
Yeah.
Number 4, this is a request from Councilmember Swinson about going for bike.
Yes, so this is a request from our new pedestrian committee. There's a program where we accept old bikes, repair them, and then give them away to people who need them, primarily for transportation, but we'll go for any reason. And the point was for this to come to council is because I guess legally, whenever the city accepts or disposes of property, it has to go to council. And I wanted to avoid coming every time I want to give a bike away. So this would just say that we could give bikes away, essentially. We have about 15 adult bikes that we're looking to give away, hopefully January or February. And then we want to do another program partnering with the police department for kids and bike safety.
And Councilmember Swenson, there was, I don't know if you're aware of it, to my understanding, there was a similar program here in the city of Blanco, maybe a decade ago. Is that accurate?
I think at one time there was the Blanco Blue bikes.
That's what I'm
which
thinking of, yeah.
it inspired this project. That one, all the bikes were shared, which was really cool. You could just bike it and leave it somewhere. But I think there was problems with them being vandalized. So that's why we moved to this ownership.
And then I think my last question is this a budget neutral item?
Yes.
Yes? That's okay. Thank you.
I'm curious where it says the city administrator provides administrative support. What is the impact on staff? Time that is in check?
Just keeping track, it's probably more the city secretary, the city record, but there's very little work for us to be able to have a discussion with the council member.
Would the city staff ever have to touch a bicycle or?
No, as far as I know, we haven't yet.
Yeah, I think it would all be on the committee to do the project. And we have a volunteer bike procurement.
Or liability to?
Yeah, I drafted this resolution and it covers, the notion that all materials and services are to be volunteer or donated, and that we're gonna do releases. Anybody that takes a bike from the city's donation program would sign a comprehensive release of the people that fixed it up, of the city, of everyone associated with the program, so that would all be covered. And the reason I asked, council member Swenson to bring this up, we are, quote, giving away, if you will, city property, but it's coming through donation throughout the cycle, and there's no material investment in public money, so, but we wanted to document that, so.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
Fine.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024 R0 authorizing city of Blanco participation in support of the Blanco Bike.
Second that motion.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you so much. Moving on. Warren, you're back up. This is the Resilient Communities Program grant.
So council actually heard about this, I think, back in July. And what this basically is there's going to end up being two RFPs. There's an RFP for the administration so that you select a grant writer to actually do the administration for this community development block grant, which is Resilient Communities. So that's going to be the first step, and the resolution that you have basically covers that. Okay. Once that administration happens, and if we get the grant, then you'll have a separate RFP at a later time to actually create the product. That product, depending on how much money we get, the full $300,000 that we're requesting, that could be both then the comprehensive plan, that could be UDC updates, that could be a drainage study, that could be a multitude of land use opportunities. So the first step, and the reason why you heard about this before was we had been talking to a grant writer, and at the time they wanted two RFPs combined. You the council had asked that these be separated out, and I've actually talked. There's a land planner that called me and said, "Hey, look, we really like to be able to try to do this RFP, but we're not going to do both administration and land planning." So we're separating them out, and that's the first step tonight, is to authorize the resolution so that we can actually go out for RFP on the administration. Once you select somebody, then we'll see if we get that grant, but I think we have a very good chance of getting that. And then probably in a few months, you'll see me again asking about an RFP for the land planning on whatever product we go out for. But I think the time we ask for it. Questions of staff?
Yeah, I'm glad you followed, because there was GrantWorks that was going to come in, and they were all come home, and then they sort of disappeared.
So, and I don't want to talk about a specific company, but with that particular company, they wanted to do both products. And what that does then is if they're doing the administration and then they also want to do the comp plan, then you're eliminating a bunch of land planners and engineers that might be competitive if you just separate them. So we're doing them separate.
Questions?
I guess one, is there an inventory of providers that will, since one provider declined to provide both a singular service, there are providers that when we set out our request for proposal.
There's a list of, I think, 8 to 10, grant writers that we have to, send notification to, that would be invited to, do an RFP. And then at that time, we'll have a committee that will to give council recommendations.
So you do think there's an inventory provider?
There's an inventory provider. I didn't provide it in paper. There
No,
is.
I just,
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think I'm one of the ones that pushed to segregate the two entities because, and that I didn't want to shoot myself in the foot.
I believe there are 10, and I know for sure that we have at least 2 people.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll entertain a motion on this resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve resolution 2024R001, authorizing the submission of the community block development grant mitigation resilient community program project application for the general landowner.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
One more conversation? All in favor? That's unanimously, this easy. Okay, thank you so much. And, Warren, still up. We're
Yes, sir.
moving on to, number 6, the comprehensive master plan task force.
Right, so Mayor and I will talk about this. I'd like to talk to some of the people in the community. When you start to embark on looking at the comprehensive plan, it's not just about the staff, about the council. And every land planner, every city planner will tell you that as you're going through this process, it's not just enough to engage your P&Z board. We need to have a separate, and it will be helpful to have a separate task force that helps review public comment, that helps engage with the public on what they're looking for with any land use, whether it's comprehensive plan, whether it's UDC updates, whether it's zoning or anything like that. So I think last week you heard from a citizen, Bobby McClung, who is a former council member that's been very involved in the community. And we talked a little bit about the process of putting together this group. So that's an individual for this, but tonight we're really talking more about council approving a CMP task force. So I think Bob McClung is a great resource. I think you want to involve some other, we're starting to put together this task force, maybe someone from P&Z, someone from the Historic Commission, someone from the Transportation Committee. So you're going to look at some, just a wide variety of folks. So that is my recommendation. Questions to say?
I know, Bobby said he wanted to be here, but he had work obligations, couldn't get out of it.
I'm not sure today. It's very, I don't know if he's on the line.
I don't know if it is or not, there's one person on
But he really wanted to be here today, but he was here last week, or excuse me, last month and in a presentation. So that's definitely.
So if he's not here, we can appoint him chair.
Yeah.
Hey, that's very.
Hold on.
Yeah. He's willing, he wants to do it.
He is very well. I talked to him, I probably talk to him every couple of weeks about different projects and different things.
You know, we couldn't afford somebody like that. We're very fortuitous. Timing is lined up.
We've been looking on a bunch of committees like
He's a rock star.
that. Okay.
Definitely into.
Then I am supportive of this. I make a motion that we approve the resolution 2024 R0. Blank on mine.
Because we have like 5 resolutions on the agenda, so I
will
didn't
this-
know
will this
what
now
was gonna
be
be.
two?
Yes, that would now be 2.
Okay, two. Well, that's if it passes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we did, the chair, we did put Bobby in there, is that?
I think
I tender the offer of chair to him. I'm not gonna appoint him without his consent.
So that's part of the motion to,
Tender offers.
okay. Is there a second? This is to pass the resolution and pencil in Bobby pending his approval. Okay, second. Any more discussion?
Well, I'm very supportive of a potential route to take a look at our comprehensive master plan. It has to be done. How are we proposing that this committee will be formed? How will the members be chosen?
Well, you can either, choose them and instruct staff on how you want them chosen, or, you can trust me to start. People. I don't know how you want to do
The
that.
slate would have to be approved
Part of
by
the,
council.
Yes.
part of the resolution is the chair and council shall provide additional recommendations or appointments to the task force for consideration and action at February.
We didn't put.
Oh, I put
Correct
23,
that to 2024.
24. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. That answers your
It
question?
does. I'm supportive. I'm a little leery of, since Mr. McClung's not here tonight, I'm not sure that part of the, motion makes sense to me.
Well, I did talk to him today. He didn't want to be here. He's very willing to do it. We talked to him last couple of weeks.
So we do have a motion to second. The motion includes penciling him in pending his approval. All in favor? Oh, okay, unanimous. Very good. Moving on. Thank you. We are on number 7.
So, we have a presentation on that.
This is, block size, Senator Swinson.
Go to that. Why don't I get started? The Councilman Swinson just interrupt me. I'll say what I should. So last night, the planning commission, PZ, that discussed, I want to just go over some basic issues that we have now with block length, and then Councilman Swinson can talk about kind of the proposals. So right now, what we have is a block length of 1,320 feet of the street that can go before there's an intersection. You also have a cul-de-sac, a street that ends in a cul-de-sac that could be as long as 1,000 feet. Can you go ahead and go a little tighter there so you can see that, sorry, I'm making you work here. Whoops. Go ahead and, yeah, excellent. I'm glad I'm not doing it. If we look at the street widths, most local streets, the requirement's 50, a lot of them are 55 foot, but the minimum pavement width requirement is actually 28. I know it's 30 in the 30 in here because with Austin there was a concrete ribbon, but generally we would have a 27 foot wide street with a 6-inch curb. There's really no gutters in town, so you're not going to live at 30, but it's going to be a 20. Having said that, the reason why the request is 275 feet is that if you actually look at our subdivisions, or actually our roads now, most of the in town, the blocks are 275 feet. I think you've heard discussion from Brandon Molan, the land plan that we used here and there. He's talked about that. So the proposal to look at a 275 foot maximum block length to create walkability and connectivity. And then if there's any request for a double or quadruple block, that would be an SUP type of thing where the council would actually review that and actually approve that. So I probably stole a little bit of your thunder, but Councilmember, do you want to explain anything else you're reading here?
Yeah, I think the most important benefit I think this gives us is that it's a tool that will help to maintain Lakewood's character by extending the original layout of the town. So the original part of our town right here is all of these 275 foot by 275 foot blocks. We see kind of south of the river, it's away from that. There's not those small blocks, but here in the original part, it has the small blocks. So I think it would help us if we extended this as new developments come and land gets developed. If they keep that block structure, I think it will really help to maintain our character. And the other thing I think it will help with is kind of limiting big box and strip center style developments, that typical highway style development, simply by the small scale of our blocks. If they want to come in and put a small store in a 275-foot block, that's fine. If they want to build a bigger store, they can come through P&Z and council and get either double or quadruple block to your summer space.
You want to talk about connectivity, you want to go down a little bit? I don't know, there's let's go to the next one. Okay, how to the next one?
Yeah, well, this one's actually really good. So small blocks are really good for traffic because there's multiple routes that can be taken. There's not new development styles kind of tend toward a few local streets. They all go out onto a connector. They all go out to one arterial street. So if there's a wreck on that street, traffic backs up and there's no additional way. So you can imagine on the left is a grocery store. If you can imagine there is a spill somewhere in this grocery store, you're not stuck anywhere. There's multiple ways you can get out of your aisle. Now, if you imagine the grocery store was designed like some of our roads, like some roads are designed, imagine if there was a spill in one of those little offshoots, you're stuck there. So I don't know how descriptive that is, but having more connectivity is really good for traffic. There's multiple routes and it disperses traffic naturally.
There you go.
And then if you look at this one, it's also good for walkability because so you can see the house right there in the middle. If there's small blocks are connected, it's super short distance to school. But if you're on the left without the small blocks, you got to go all the way out to the main road, which is probably really fast, trafficy. Go all the way around to the school, even though the distance is really short. You have to go all this extra way because there's not small blocks.
That is exponentially more roads to maintain.
It is, but I think that the roads can be narrower, less roadways, since there's more. When you get this style, that road right there is probably gonna be 6 lanes wide because it takes all the traffic. Here, all the roads can be smaller because there's more place for the traffic to disperse.
So you're saying you're wanting to change this to 275, is that correct?
Yes. So right now it's about 1,300 feet, which is about a fourth.
With the ability to double or quadruple on council.
And I guess if you look at 1,300 by 1,300, I think it comes out to about 30 acres inside that. Where there's no streets.
And Councilmember Swenson, is there not an exception for residential one, R1?
Yes, I did propose.
Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, pardon.
I did propose, because I wanted to protect our existing kind of large lot neighborhoods, and then also kind of the person who has 20 acres that wants to give off 5 acres for to buy a home or to build a home. I want to protect that case, so I propose that R1 would be exempt from the small block thing.
I can also make a comment that one of the things that P&Z does really well is they workshop things. You can only talk about things for maybe 10, 15 minutes, and they'll talk about it for 40 minutes. And so one of the things that came out of this is because you'll have more roadway, which is more right of way, there may be a need, and we'll have to look at that at next month's planning commission and then council, but maybe a need to reduce some building lines to help have as much, obviously right of way is expensive and then it compacts your lots, but we may need to look at a small setback to accommodate for having more roadway.
Tim, legally, my reading of the UDC and the municipal code is that all that's supposed to be based on the compass measurement. That's like the foundation for building the UDC and I mean, it refers back to the compass measurement.
It's to be consistent with the comprehensive master plan. And by the way, backing up from that question, just so we all understand procedurally where you are right here, right tonight. This is just an introduction of the concept. If this goes forward, well, staff will determine whether it goes forward. We noticed up for 15-day hearing, for P and Z, public hearing at P and Z, and then public hearing back here with council on actual action on this item. But yes, to answer your, so you're just talking about it tonight. Yes, it needs to be consistent, with the comprehensive master plan, but comprehensive master plan doesn't really address down the weeds here.
Sure, but it does address the vision. What is the
Correct,
charter
correct.
that we want to, I mean, what are the?
Yeah, and I think
all that?
if I looked at it, you've got an exception in this, you've got an exceptionability in this proposal. This is a basic, character decision, as Councilman pointed out, which I think is consistent with your plan. I mean, as I read the 2004 plan, maybe it is
20-year-old plan.
Yeah, I know, but
I just, we're just approving the committee
Yeah.
to do the heavy lifting, to have the community dialogue, to pull it all together. And I think this is a great conversation for them to have and us to have as a community, but it seems to me premature. It was putting the cart before the horse. And I don't know of any developments that are being proposed to chop up any.
I do.
In town.
I mean,
Well-
not to that point yet, but they are, I mean, I've spoken to one of the developers who is looking at putting a strip center on 281. I was at planning and zoning. I was the only member in attendance. If anybody ever wants to go. They had a really great discussion about this, and I can't speak for them, but what I heard was tentatively that they are supportive of this. There were some things that I was very appreciative. Commissioner DeVincent, so probably in particular had some good comments that I think are worthwhile in looking into about setbacks. I think the comprehensive master plan is so important, but from what I understand, that process will take us maybe 3 years. And I am so concerned, my year plus here, every day I'm more concerned that we have to put a tool in place sooner than later. And I brought my notes from the special meeting that we had back on March 7th, where I'm going to take credit for essentially killing the 281 overlay. I thought it was too restrictive. And we never talked about it again officially. But what I found in my notes, the one thing that always made sense to me was the law structure. It's what our city is based on. It's what the square that we're sitting on is based on. It's what all the historic parts of this town is based on. And it's what everybody loves about this town. And I have found nobody yet that I've talked to that would be in disagreement with extending it.
processes.
I do want to just piggyback on what the councilman said. And I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm very neutral about this, but what I will say is that it's going to take about 6 months to get the grant. It'll probably take, once we get the grant, and hire the different people, you're talking about 18 months to put together a comp plan or anything else land use related. So you're talking about 2 years. So if this is something you want to do, don't think, oh, we shouldn't do it because we're going to get a comp plan done by the end of the year, because it will not happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Any other questions, comments, discussion?
Was there any more of the presentation, Councilmember?
I guess I have a question, I guess, for Warren, and if we were to pass this or something, you know, along this line, does that preclude our newly formed committee from making a recommendation that is less restrictive or more restrictive?
I guess I don't really understand the question.
I mean, are we setting a standard that can't be disputed or revisited?
You can always revisit. I mean, this would be an ordinance. This would be an amendment to the UDC. And if your comp plan committee will say you're asking to revisit that and amend it, anything can be amended by council. I answered your question.
So this would be a Band-Aid until UDCs.
It could be Band-Aid or it could be not a Band-Aid.
Okay, yeah, but it,
And you would have the outlet that if a big development comes in and they want a triple block, they come to council and it goes through the variance process. So you're not precluding acceptable development, you're just changing the baseline. You know, we're gonna accept out instead of it's.
anybody else? Thank you so much. Okay, moving on, old business, number one.
I requested that be an executive session, please.
Okay, we're gonna bounce up executive session, so that concludes this portion of the council meeting. It is, 7:30, so we're gonna step back into executive session. Say bye.
Well,
What are you gonna do?